Hey there guys, and welcome back. A few weeks ago on the show we talked about PPE, personal protective equipment, and one of the things I touched on briefly was using push pads on your jointer planer, your table saw, or what have you. So on today's episode we're going to show you how to make a push pad using scrap material and a few things that you may have lying around your shop. So let's have a look at that, and I hope that you guys enjoy this week's show. So when using any kind of push stick or push pad, being comfortable is important. You don't want one that's going to dig into your hands and make it uncomfortable to use. So when I make mine, I thought what better way than to mimic this kind of a handle. After all, this is time tested and true as being comfortable to use. It's built to fit your hand, and what better way to add a handle to your push pad. So I've started off by tracing out the profile of this particular handle onto a piece of 1/8 inch hardboard, and then I've cut it out on the scroll saw, which gives us a template to use for other push pads, and this is going to be the template that we will use to make the push pad for this week's show. I'm going to be making this push pad out of some scrap 3/4 inch ply. So the first thing I want to do is line up my template and just trace around to give me the lines to cut here for my handle. This is why I make a template like this, because who knows, down the road you may want to make another push pad or another push stick or what have you, and you may want to incorporate this particular handle into it. So now that we've got this drawn out for our handle, we're going to take it over to the scroll saw and cut this particular shape out. I'm using a number 7 reverse tooth blade in the saw today, and I'm just going to cut out this handle. I've drilled my blade entry hole into the handle here, and we're going to start off with the interior cut of this particular piece. So we'll just feed our blade through, tension it at the bottom, and then tension our blade. I'm going to continue now to cut this out, and then I'll show you the next step. So now that our handle is cut, we need the base plate for the push pad. So I'm going to continue with this scrap piece of 3/4 ply, and I'm going to make this one 3 inches by 6 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. We've got our handle and our base plate made, and I can tell you this doesn't feel very comfortable, and the reason for that is the sharp edges around here. So I've got my trim router, I've got a 1/4 inch round over bit installed, and I'm going to go ahead and round over both sides of this handle. But you want to remember this flat edge, which is going to mount to your push pad, you do not want to route this flat edge. And just to make it kind of pretty and a little softer, I'm also going to round over the top edges of the actual push pad base itself. Don't forget your hearing protection, guys. We've got everything sanded up and the handle is rounded over. It feels good, it's comfortable, and once you come to that stage, now you can flip your base plate over, and you want to mark a center line right here on the bottom of your base plate. Now you could use a tape measure ruler. I like my gadgets, you guys know that, so I'm going to use my Incra rule here, and I'm just going to mark a line down the center at 1.5 inches. because we know that this is 3 inches wide. As well as marking the center line, I'm just going to mark a couple of places here to put some mounting screws, and I'm just going to come in at 1.5 inches in from each end of the base plate. You can put it however you want. This is just where I feel like putting it today. Who knows, maybe tomorrow I might feel like putting it at 2 inches in. It's not that critical. For a little extra bit of stability on this push pad, what I'd like to do is I'd like to put a 3/4 inch dado right down the middle, just to give this a cradle to sit in, to give it a little extra strength. But I know some of you don't have dado blades. I do, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to step cut this across using just my regular table saw blade, and just to show you guys there's more than one way to skin a cat, and if you don't have a dado blade you could do it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out this dado, and we're going to cut it step by step, inching our way across till we get the thickness or the width of the dado that we want. I've set the height of my table saw blade at approximately 3/8 of an inch high. That will be half the dimension of this 3/4 plywood. I've also set the fence so that it will coincide with the edge of this first cut. And because we've done this in the center, this fence now should be set to do both sides of the cut. So we're going to cut the outside rips first, and then we'll just clear out the middle. You've got the outside cuts completed now, and we just want to take our handle and just line it up just to get an idea to make sure that this dado is going to be of the right size. This one looks like it'll be pretty good. We may have to do a little bit of adjustment from there. So we're going to go and continue adjusting the fence and removing this center portion of the material. We'll just do a quick test fit of the handle to make sure that it fits in there okay. And you can see that's a pretty good fit. And I didn't need a dado blade to do it. So we'll carry on now with drilling our screw mounting holes to get this handle mounted on to our push block. You're going to want to countersink these holes in your plate. That way there is no metal protruding of the screws once you screw the handle in place. So we'll start off by drilling a 1/8 inch hole that will allow our screw to pass through, and then we'll follow it up with a countersink bit. Okay, so we got our parts, we got our base, countersunk holes in the back for mounting. We've got our handle, and what we're going to do here is I'm going to glue this handle in place, and once I get it glued in place I'll flip it over and I'll just drill a couple pilot holes into this so I don't split this apart, and then we'll carry on from there once this is assembled. For these I'm using some number 8 by 1.25" wood screws. These are Robertson square drives. For my American viewers, you can use Phillips if you want, but I'm a Canadian. I like Robertson. So here's our push pad. It's comfortable, it's sturdy, it feels great. However, this would be pretty slippery. We've got it all screwed and glued together, but you need something to give you some grip on your stock. Now you can use a piece of an old router pad if you like, but this is the computer age. So how many people don't have an old mouse pad lying around? And these things are great for the bottom of these push pads. They've got a surface to adhere to, and they've got a non-slip base on them, which works really well for these. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a 3" by 6" piece of this, and we're going to glue it onto the bottom of our push pad. Well, I've thought of all kinds of ways to glue this pad onto here, and I've thought of everything from spray adhesive, double-sided tape, silicone, two-part epoxy, you pretty much name it, I've thought of it. But I think I'm going to go with Titebond. I mean, it's wood, it's material. What do I got to lose, right? So, give it a generous coat of glue on there. And we're going to spread that around nice and even. And I don't mind getting dirty. So we're just going to use my finger here. Spread this around right to the edges. And you don't want to spread it too thick on the edges, because at this point we don't really want any squeeze out onto the pad. But we'll give it a nice little coating. Get it well spread around. Just like that. And we're going to sit this on top of our cut up mouse pad here, and we're going to let this dry for a few hours and come back and see how we made out. And there you have it. Using a little bit of scrap 3/4 ply and an old mouse pad that was destined for the garbage anyway, we've got ourselves a fantastic little comfortable to use push pad that'll keep your fingers safe for years to come. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's video, and I hope to see you next week for some more woodworking videos. Thanks for watching.